Hello and welcome to Veritas Populi, Truth for the People. I'm your host and producer of the show, Dan Meredith. Veritas Populi is where we explore many different areas of life: historical, political, spiritual, cultural. We believe that the truth is like a precious metal. The harder it's rubbed, and the brighter it shines. Today, we have two special guests with us. We have Mishelle Perkins and Karen Lees from the Center of Self-Governance. Mishelle is the co-founder and vice president, and Karen is marketing director and a board member. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
We really appreciate you being here. I myself have been involved with your group, the Center for Self-Governance, not government. We were talking about that a little bit before the show. But the Center for Self-Governance is really a great group.
Thank you.
Those that are watching the show, I know people that watch Veritas Populi are interested in politics and government and the Constitution, and people get frustrated sometimes. They wonder, what's going on? What can I do? They think, well, I just don't have any power. I don't have any control. I'm frustrated. What can I do about it? And they don't realize that there really is something that we can do. I took the level 1 class, but there are different levels. And tell me a little bit about the Center for Self-Governance and what you all do.
I'll take that one, Karen.
Okay, since you're a founder.
Yes, we have hit our 5-year mark recently, so we are 5 years plus into the process of educating citizens. That's our primary purpose. We're a nonprofit, and we are bipartisan. So if you look at us as strictly an educational institution to get a better understanding of what you cited, power, control, how can I make a difference, a fundamental understanding of what the founders were trying to impress upon us, the great experiment we are supposed to keep and maintain and moving forward. Because if you're understanding the founders and their intent, they started an experiment to keep the republic. They didn't provide us the answer. It was sort of like the best treasure map ever created in our Constitution and our founding paperwork. But we have a responsibility to keep that alive and moving forward in the process. Our training program continues the experiment to keep the republic through a 5-level training program. They build on, one builds on the other. Level 1 is it's called Foundations in Self-Governance. And it's a fundamental, just a floor level class, understanding, making sure we're all on the same level, because we all bring different baggage to the class. We bring different understandings of simple words. For instance, in level 1, we're going to actually define things you just said: power, control, a right. Now, you might think you know what they are. I did, and I got several wrong. So we make sure that as citizens in this training program, we have a fundamental understanding of some of the basic words the founders left us to define and understand, and then it becomes more complex, obviously, as you go through the program. But level 1, you're going to look at power, government, and control.
One of the things that I got out of level 1, and one of the basic things is the lady that talked to Ben Franklin when this whole thing started. Tell us about that story, Mrs.
Powell, Powell, E1L. If you look her up in history, you'll find some writings where she's referred to with the 2L. It's 1L. We found this completely by accident on a plane. It was one of those great moments in time, a gift. I don't believe in coincidences. But it was not when we started. We are making discoveries all the way through this process as well. We discovered that the woman that met Benjamin Franklin outside of the Constitution, the hall, waiting to see what they have given us. So we hear in history, "What have you given us, sir?" We hear that quote all the time, and he says a republic or a she says a republic or a monarch, and he says a republic if you can keep it. We know that part, but we didn't know her name. We didn't know her history. So finding out that it was Elizabeth Powell, waiting outside to ask a founding father, what have you decided in there, is significant. Why is that significant? Because she couldn't vote and she couldn't own property yet. So what is she doing?
And she couldn't hold office.
No, she couldn't do any of these things that we so much take for granted since the 19th Amendment. We shouldn't take this for granted, but we should also take a huge lesson from Elizabeth Powell, and that is she used what she had at her disposal at that time in history to have incredible influence over people.
So some of the study that you all have done, you found out that she had written letters, had
Yes.
talked to people, had entertained in her home.
Absolutely.
And she influenced people to make decisions.
Yes.
Even though she couldn't vote, she couldn't hold office, she couldn't hold property, she couldn't own property, but she had a great impact on our founders
Absolutely.
and us today because of those things.
And we've learned so much from history by delving in on this exercise to create this incredible curriculum, which we're extremely proud of. You are going to find nothing like this out there. But these tidbits we find are infused into our curriculum, so the student leaves immediately with that awareness. And it's spurring a new love of history. But I didn't know, and Karen, you might know this, have known, but I didn't know that people took 3 times in a letter writing process to get to where they could present a letter that was penned if it was a formal relationship. But we found out that Eliza Powell and also Abigail Adams, she was the same time period, same group of folks, they were all friends. Some of these letters of great influence were actually sent in their second form. So they would have crossed out punctuation corrections, but they were so intimate in their friendship that they were close enough to send the less formal third copy. So Elizabeth Powell was sending letters to George Washington because they were that close, saying, you're going to run for president again. So she's the reason George Washington ran a second term. She's the woman that stood outside to say, what have you given us, sir? But you have to listen to that statement with new weight on it, we hope, and that is Benjamin Franklin saying very clearly an action item for all of us, which is keep the republic. So we are keepers of that republic. We train keepers of the republic how to do it, and it's not as a singular person anymore just gaining knowledge and reading. We've got a lot of those smart people out there right now. We create teams in political subdivisions, which is referring to your county, municipality, whatever you live in. For most people, though, you live in a county. So our purpose is to create a team, anywhere from 3 to 12 people typically, and you take the training program, and by the end of it, we say that you are ready to run for office or compete with the lobbyist, the paid lobbyist, that have a ton of influence, and you can hold your own in those situations at any level of government. But I'm also a very strong believer that it's at local government where our strength is, because that's where so many of the decisions happen. And a lot of people are so concerned with the federal level, but our work absolutely proves the case. We need to focus at the local level as well.
One of the things that I learned from the level 1 is that people really need to know is the influence that we can have. The concept that most people think, what we do is we go down and we vote.
Yes.
And then we go home.
Correct.
We're done. And then the person that we elect, they work 364 days a year, and then we do our work. Oh, it's election day. We go down and we vote.
One
We
day.
do one day. But that's not the way the founders intended it. These are our representatives. They have phones, they have emails, they have offices, and that we have the ability and are expected to call them, write them, go talk to them. And
Correct.
And since this class, I have gone down to the Legislative Plaza. Sadly, I won't name him, thought about naming him, But my representative spends his time going out doing stunts with guns out in the streets, and I've been to his office 3 or 4 times and made appointments and sit there and waited, and he won't see me, but I've been to other offices, and they will see me and talk to me. But you can, for all of the listeners out there, you can go to Legislative Plaza,
Absolutely.
knock on the door and say, I'm here to see so-and-so. They will talk to you.
Yes.
Yes, they will.
Sometimes mine won't, but yours should, and most of the time they will. They're glad to see you, and you should, because that's what they're there for. And if they don't, there's something wrong. And most people don't know that you can go down to Legislative Plaza. You got to go through all the rigmarole of going. It's like going flying to California, going through metal detectors and stuff
It's
like
not
that.
easy.
Which really ticks me off that I've got to go through a metal detector to see someone that represents me. But be that as it may, after you get through all of that, you can walk up and down the halls and talk to these people. And that's the way it ought to be.
Yes.
And all of us ought to be doing that. And I'm sure you all have done that.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that you all teach in your class, to let people know this is our job. This is part of what we should be doing.
Well, that's why they call it the people's house. It is, we own it, it's ours. And those representatives that we elect are there to flip the switch, yes or no, on our behalf. They are our eyes, our ears, our arms, flipping that switch, because all the people of that district can't possibly physically be there to flip that switch. That's why we elect representatives. And sometimes we forget that, especially when we're conditioned by society to believe that they are the ones running things. And it is a conditioning, and it's done quite on purpose. Being in marketing, I understand you don't do anything and put anything out there for the public and craft a language unless it's done intently for a specific purpose. And they have really done a number on the people and trained us. They've really trained us to believe that we have no power, no control, and what we train citizens, we have a complete and total paradigm shift in the training courses, and you start to see things a totally different way. And when you start learning the system and applying the system, and this is an applied civics, this isn't just sit and do homework or sit and do paperwork, this is you apply it as you do it. That's how you learn. You actually go out and do it. And once you do apply it, the representatives, our elected officials, start to respond in the like manner, in the correct manner, in response to what you're doing, because they know the system. It's just they know that the citizens, many of us, don't know the system. So it's important that we learn it, and that's what we do in our training.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm a true believer that people have been taught and purposely convinced that they don't have a say in the way things are done. And it's been purposely done this way. They've been taught to just lay low, be quiet, and leave things the way they are. The government will take care of things. And I like the way you all are doing things to turn this around, to teach people that this is not the way it's supposed to be. I was watching TV last night, and oddly enough, now the guy's name is, he was on Tucker Carlson. Did you all see him last night?
Not last
Didn't
night.
watch last night.
The guy that was in Jaws, little guy, but he's all about
Richard Dreyfuss.
Richard Dreyfuss. There you go. You win. Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, I thought
Richard
you
Dreyfuss.
meant physically little. I thought you meant a child in Jaws.
No. Physically little. He's a little guy. But anyway, he's leading the Dreyfuss,
Yes.
some kind of thing in nationally where he's trying to get civics taught in schools.
Yes.
Because he is a believer in civics and the Constitution, and it was amazing how he and Tucker Carlson saw eye to eye.
Yes.
Because he was saying that, he might come out differently on viewpoints, but he believes that we are losing our concept of the Constitution. And he was saying all of this that went on out in Berkeley, where they were shutting people down, that they
Free
can't
speech.
speak. He was saying that is just wrong.
Yes.
The Constitution says free speech is paramount, and if he said we were losing this concept of what's right and wrong constitutionally and legally, and he's pushing for this.
Yes, that's
So-
right.
And I think that's exactly the same thing that you all are doing, is trying to convince people that this is what we ought to be doing, being
Well-
part of our own government.
One of the things we've tapped into, and this is a newer development for anybody that is watching and took our class originally, 2012, 13, 14, our curriculum's completely new. One of the things we've adjusted to is exactly what you put your finger on right there, which is we are typically divided into right or left political parties. It's how our system operates, and yes, we have that libertarian arm, and there's other fringe parties out there, but we are told that we have to choose. We cannot find anybody else doing what we do, which is maintaining the system and the boundaries that are in our system, built into it. A lot of people are curious about regional government and have been talking about it for years, but it can't get traction to the average listener because it becomes too complex, to be honest. I was around a gentleman years ago, and he knew so much about regional government. He was talking so far over my head. I knew it was a looming danger, but what am I going to do about it? That's kind of how I left it. Now I know through our training program, part of the problem is that you have to simplify the language enough for us to digest it. It's been made absolutely purposely made convoluted, twisted, extremely difficult to understand.
And misleading.
Very misleading. So we check our sources, we check the true meaning of words, we define words from the very beginning. Level 2, you're going to understand how the citizen is supposed to interact with those people we elect. But first of all, you have to go back. Are we exercising our civic duty, responsibility, or authority? You have to decide. Are you going to be responsible and register to vote? Are you going to show your duty responsibility by pulling the lever one day or a few minutes? Actually, it comes out to every voting cycle, depending on where you live. Or are you going to be showing your authority and having something closer to 365 on the math equation, where you're going to be in the system maintaining those boundaries with the knowledge we teach you? And Karen touched on, you go out into the field and you do. That's intimidating as all get out. So you're guided through it, and we're buddy systeming through it. That's, again, back to the team. It's not likely I'm going to go do that on my own. But if I've got Karen by my side, which I have many times, I'm going to do things. So it's just a beautiful model. It works. Karen was going to share some incredible success stories. One of them, age 10 to 110 is our age target. Defining republic or democracy, what do we live in? That is a basic coming out of elementary school, middle school. Most people fail that question. You use the words wrong, and our history will change by using the word wrong over and over and over, where I challenge any viewer to go out and ask somebody, do we have a democracy or a republican form of government? They're going to say democracy. Well, we had a child 10 years old fight her teacher and won, and it had a ripple effect in her entire school county in New Jersey. That's a 10-year-old.
Wow.
So if I hear parents and older people saying, I don't have time, I'm not smart enough, I beg to differ. You can be blind and take our training like the lady in Missouri. You can be a black minority like our lady in Ferguson, Missouri, that was in the belly of the burning of Ferguson, that takes our training and is empowered. Or you can be our 10-year-old Alexis from New Jersey that won a debate against her teacher and had her grade reversed.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good
Well,
stuff.
y'all are doing some great work. We got about 7 minutes. Tell about some of the success stories. What are some of the people don't just take your class, go home, watch TV?
No.
What are some of the things that have actually happened?
Well, when we train citizens, they form teams. And CSG does not form those teams. These citizens do. They take the training and they naturally form a team because you work better together in a team. They meet together on a regular basis. They lay out strategy. They work very much, and I don't want to the analogy is the only thing I can think of that's as close to it. They're very much like a citizen Navy SEAL team, like a citizen SEAL team, and some people do call them that. But you strategize and you work quiet behind the scenes. You're not overtly out there in front of the public. You just go quietly doing what citizens are supposed to be doing. And you talk to each other during your training meetings and your team meetings, and you decide what you're going to work on. But these teams have reported back to us, since CSG provides the training that we gave them and sent them out with that training. They've done some phenomenal things with that training, and they report back and tell us some amazing things. Now, one of the first things that we had that people would recognize, one of the first assignments was Governor Scott Walker's recall election. They heard about Center for Self-Governance by long distance and called. And so a team went up there and helped with his recall election. The same happened with Dr. David Bratt, who replaced Eric Cantor. That was a Center for Self-Governance trained team that went out and did that. As an organization, we didn't do that, but the citizens that were trained went out and did that. They've done some pretty amazing things, like the lady in Ferguson, Missouri, who started a team. And I don't know if you remember in the news, but the Department of Justice had come in and planted themselves in Ferguson for a time. She had developed such good relationships, and this is a black woman who owned a hair salon.
That was burned twice in the riots.
Her business was burned out twice. She was like ground zero of the riots. She had developed good relationships with her county and city elected officials and gone to them and said, look, we don't need the Department of Justice coming in here and telling you, usurping your authority because you're the authority in this area. And they put together a strategy, and they got the Department of Justice thrown out of Ferguson, Missouri. So, you know, they're doing some pretty amazing things.
We've
These
had
students amaze me.
Voter fraud in California turned over to the tune of 25,000 people. You heard that story on the news. That was CSG impressed students. The stories are endless. It's a spreadsheet long in our computer, and we're extremely happy about those successes, of course. But what we've discovered is that we start level one with everybody saying, what's your issue? We all have an issue. When I started my activism, mine was healthcare. That is all I could think about. It's all I wanted to study about, and it's all I was going to fix. That didn't work out so well for me. What we've realized is unless you can put your issue down, understand when to make moves strategically, and that's upper level training, strategically when to make moves for an issue, because sometimes you're not even on a calendar, you're not even close, but you spend the rest of your year being mad about it. Well, do something else. So a team and study helps you figure out strategically when to make moves that can move an issue forward, or it goes down in defeat. But then you know to table it and maybe bring it back next year, no different than our guys do with summer study and legislation, and then the team picks up another ball. We're not driving any issues or candidates ever. But our students learn that maybe I am wasting all my energy on an issue that I'm never going to make movement on. Example, we have a speaker series tomorrow night, which is anybody is invited. Absolutely a great feature the CSG promotes. You come on by a webcam and you listen to somebody that's doing something fantastic out there with their citizen engagement. We had a student in Virginia that was extremely upset about the Farm Bill. She was focused on the Farm Bill and how she's going to turn over the Farm Bill and Monsanto and what food was going in her body. She realized after our training program that's probably a tall order. So empowerment through knowledge is an offshoot, which is not to be taken lightly, because this is a great example of a woman that didn't take her issue and kill it because she knew the Farm Bill was a massive undertaking now. Through our training, she thought, I can become an author and write about this, which is affecting so many more now. They have the tools she had in her head, got them all out in a book. It's brilliant, and it's flying off the shelves on Amazon. That's our student. Wow. That would have all stayed up here, pent up anger.
So she's going to now be on our speaker series.
It's excellent.
Sunday night.
Sunday night.
Sunday night. You can log on, go to centerforselfgovernance.com or contact us at info@tncsg.org.
Wow.
And we'll send you the link for that webinar. For any donation
Any
to
donation.
CSG, you can log on to that webinar. And it's going to be a great, it's all about food. It's, what's the name of it? Who's messing with my food
Yeah,
or something,
the
something
food
to that
supply,
effect.
yep.
Yeah.
Great. We've got about 1 minute and 30 seconds left. If someone's sitting at home, this is what I'd like people to realize. If you're sitting at home, you don't know what to do, this doesn't take a big auditorium.
Nope.
Most of your classes is 5 people, 8 people, 10 people in someone's
Cost-wise,
living room.
You're absolutely correct.
You
We've
can
met-
have one of these classes, call you all, say, look, I've got 8 people, I'd like to do this in my living room. You all will send somebody and have a class.
And you don't need
and
a
then
lot of money.
You can change the world, or you're part of the world in your living room, and you guys will send somebody to do this.
Correct.
So, there's no
$50 gets you started. The entire training program, 5 levels, comes to $1 a day.
Okay.
So $365, you're going to get all of our training program. About a year in duration is going to put you through all 5 levels, and they build on each other. We do
Okay.
have scholarships available. If the $50 is a problem, let us know. Still talk
Okay.
to us. We'll make it work. And we need about 10 people in a class to make us break even.
Okay.
Of course, we're a nonprofit, so we love
Yeah.
our donors as well.
Okay. And the website to go to, centerforselfgovernance.com.
Right.
Yes.
Right? Go there for more information. These people are great. They're doing some fantastic work. And if you want to help change your world and aren't satisfied just sitting at home saying, I don't know what to do, I can't do anything, you can do something. Get with the Center for Self-Governance and maybe change some things. Thanks for listening.